Her mother looked me in the eye and said, "She's carrying twins, but not yours. Let's not make this messier. We'll wire $5 million to your account by morning. Just sign the papers and disappear." I didn't argue, I just smiled, said congratulations, and signed those papers like a man who had just sold a painting he never wanted to frame again. My name is Julian Voss, and I don't shout when I lose. I walk. I took the money and flew to Lisbon, letting them tell whatever story they wanted about me being paid off and discarded. They thought they had bought my silence, but they never asked why I had signed so quickly. They didn't know about the nurse I tipped at the hospital or the DNA test I had quietly submitted only 2 hours after Vivian first admitted the affair. While they were busy picking out wedding cakes and finalizing vows for her new marriage to Preston Whitaker, I was waiting for the perfect moment to send a very specific envelope. The envelope arrived exactly at the wedding rehearsal. It was delivered by a discreet courier during cocktail hour at the Beaumont family's sprawling coastal estate. Inside was the full laboratory report, complete with undeniable genetic markers, along with a concise summary of everything my private investigator had uncovered during the previous 6 weeks. Vivian opened it in front of her bridesmaids, her future in-laws, and half of the city's old money elite. The scream that tore from her throat stopped the violinist mid-tune and echoed off the marble columns like a gunshot. When she called me 37 minutes later, her voice was frantic and venomous, cracking with panic. "You have no right, Julian. No right." I was sitting on the balcony of my rented villa overlooking the Tagus River, nursing a glass of 1996 Barolo. The sun was setting in that particular shade of gold only Lisbon seems capable of producing. I answered calmly, almost gently. "I simply corrected the record, Vivian. You built the lie. I just mailed it." The DNA report didn't just say the twins weren't mine. It said they didn't belong to Preston Whitaker either. She had lied to everyone. The truth was far more damning than even I had expected. Over the final 2 years of our marriage, Vivian had been involved with 3 different men simultaneously. There was Victor Slade, the sleek nightclub investor who financed her secret nights in the city; Philip Moreau, and her family's longtime financial advisor who siphoned consulting fees into private accounts while sleeping with her in hotel suites across Europe; and Stefan, the quiet, ambitious valet who maintained her father's vintage car collection and apparently maintained Vivian in the backseat of several of them. The full dossier was clinical, merciless, and thoroughly documented. Timestamps, hotel receipts, private jet manifests, photographs that left nothing to interpretation. I hadn't asked for the photos, but my investigator believed in thoroughness. I included only 2 of the least explicit ones in the envelope. The rest remained in my digital vault, a sleeping insurance policy. The Whitaker family pulled Preston out of the estate before sunrise. He left in the same helicopter that had brought him, pale and silent. By noon the next day, the Beaumonts were in full damage control mode. The society pages that once celebrated the upcoming wedding of the decade were now feasting on a spectacular scandal. Headlines screamed about the disgraced heiress, the mysterious paternity, and the 3 lovers from vastly different worlds. The PR bloodbath was total. That was when her father called me. Eleanor Beaumont had always been ice. Her husband, Reginald, was granite. But the man who spoke to me that afternoon sounded like broken gravel. His voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual authority. "Julian, we made a mistake, a grave one. Name your price to make this disappear." I was standing on the rooftop terrace of the Four Seasons in Lisbon, watching boats glide across the harbor. I let the silence stretch just long enough to become uncomfortable. "I don't want a price, Reginald. I want the company, Beaumont Global, 100%, clean title, no liens, no residual shares, no silent partners. Transfer it to me within 72 hours, or I release the rest of the files. Every photo, every transaction, every humiliating detail." He laughed once, a bitter, broken sound. "You're serious?" "Completely. And Reginald, don't bother trying to negotiate. You don't have any leverage left. Your daughter made sure of that." 2 days later, I signed the ownership transfer papers in a silent boardroom on the 42nd floor of Beaumont Tower, the same room where I had once attended family dinners and holiday parties as their respected son-in-law. Now the only sounds were the scratch of my pen and the nervous breathing of their attorneys. The moment the ink dried, I began restructuring. I cleared out every executive Vivian had ever vouched for, every vice president who owed their position to bedroom access rather than competence. Within 6 weeks, more than half the C-suite was gone. I brought in sharp, hungry talent from outside the incestuous circles of old money. I changed the compensation structure, modernized the brand, and rebranded the entire multi-generational empire as V & Sons. It wasn't because I had children yet, but one day I would, and they would inherit something forged from strategy and survival rather than scandal and weakness. When the Beaumonts tried to sue me for coercion and duress, my legal team produced airtight records of every conversation, every signature, every voluntary transfer. We had recorded the calls. We had notarized documents. We had timestamps proving I had never once threatened them until after the scandal had already destroyed their reputation. The judge dismissed the case in less than 20 minutes. The Beaumonts were left with nothing but the sight of my name on their building and the quiet laughter that followed them through every country club in the city. A year later, I returned for a brief visit. I stepped into a small cafe near the waterfront to escape the rain. The barista, a young woman with kind eyes and a sharp memory, recognized me immediately. "You're Julian Voss," she said, sliding my coffee across the counter. "I remember the stories from last year. Everyone said you lost everything." I smiled faintly, stirring sugar into the cup. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Looking at you now, it doesn't seem like you lost anything at all. You just took the long way to something better." I nodded slowly, feeling the truth of her words settle in my chest. She was right. I never needed to ruin Vivian. She had done that quite effectively on her own. All I had to do was stand still, keep my composure, and wait long enough for the truth to catch up with her lies. The universe, it turns out, has an excellent sense of timing. Now, when I walk through the lobby of V & Sons Tower, employees straighten their posture with genuine respect rather than the calculated deference they once showed the Beaumont name. The company is stronger, leaner, and more profitable than it has been in 15 years. And every time I see the sleek V & Sons logo etched in glass, I'm reminded that some men scream when they are betrayed. I simply smile, sign the papers, and begin walking towards something far greater than what I left behind.